Hey, good Sunday evening, everybody. I'm 5 News Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert. Hope you've had a good Sunday. I know a lot of folks getting ready for the big game. Before we got there, wanted to give you an update on the forecast. As you know, we've been looking at the potential for a couple of different rounds of wintry precipitation beginning tomorrow with another round on Wednesday. Details are starting to become a bit more clear, and what we know is a lot of us are going to see a good cold rain and probably nothing more. That's some really good news. Nobody wants an ice storm, and thankfully, for the most part, it is just going to be a cold rain. However, largely in northwest Arkansas, especially east of 49, there very well could end up being a mix of precipitation, a mix that includes rain to sleet to freezing rain back and forth, and that's likely going to be the trend tomorrow night into Tuesday. So let's walk through the very latest on what we know. What we're going to find here is that rain's going to be moving in a little bit later than what was earlier thought. In fact, most of your Monday's probably going to end up being dry. Here's 8 o'clock in the morning, cloudy skies. It's cold out there tomorrow morning. You'll want those coats. By late afternoon, early evening, this is 6 p.m., expect some showers south of Interstate 40. Those slowly but surely building into the area by around 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow night. So thankfully, when a lot of folks are already at home in bed for the night, we've got a good soaking rain moving across the river valley with some of those showers now extending into northwest Arkansas. Keep your eye on the temperatures. This is all going to come down to 1 or 2 degrees. That's going to be the difference between ice or just a plain old-fashioned cold rain. This is 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. Look at that fine line. Some of us at 33 degrees. Very possibly that's where we could start to see some minor icing where those locations, especially in the higher elevations, might actually be at or below freezing. Notice how close we are. Even at Fayetteville's Drake Field, 34 Tuesday morning. That's a pretty small margin of error, right? That trend's likely going to continue throughout the morning on Tuesday, where we could see that mix set up largely in the higher elevations of the Ozarks and the Ouachitas. When it's all said and done, with this first round, it's possible that we could pick up upwards of about 2/10 of an inch of ice. I'll tell you what that means, some context here in a minute. That's largely going to be in Carroll and Madison counties, further east over into Boone and Newton as well. This is where we would expect the most icing with this first round. However, there very well still could be a thin glaze. We're talking 5/100ths of an inch. We're talking really, really thin, closer to 49, closer to the northwest Arkansas metro. That would also extend into the higher elevations of the Ozarks, northern Franklin, northern Johnson. Honestly, I wouldn't even rule out northern Crawford County per se with this first round. Overall, these numbers here, not really a significant impact. That's the good news for us. We'll take a closer look into where some of these higher totals could set up. War Eagle, Huntsville, Hinesville, Clifty, Eureka Springs, Berryville, Green Forest, Japton, Boston. I really think this is probably the area where we could very well have the most icing with this first round. That's not to say it's going to be significant. In fact, many of us are still, all of us really, in this nuisance category. With those totals, what you could expect Tuesday morning, some slick spots, light icing on trees, cars, other surfaces, but it's not until you get a little bit higher that we start to see power outages and widespread road issues. So thankfully, these numbers we're looking at puts us in the nuisance category for Tuesday morning. Thankfully, it's not going to be any worse than that, at least as of this point. We're going to keep watching those temperatures just to make sure we don't find ourselves with more ice on our hands than what we currently think. It's all really going to come down to really just 1 or 2 degrees. Now, we get that second round to likely start moving into the area by Wednesday. There's going to be a few things shake out. Another round of moisture, another round of rain moving into the area by Wednesday after a brief lull Tuesday night. The difference between the second round and the first round, it's where that cold air sets up. It's expected that that cold air is going to spill a little bit further towards the south, perhaps as far south as Interstate 40. Now, I really still think most of us are dealing with just a cold rain on Wednesday. However, because those temperatures are pushing a little bit further south, maybe we do that dance between rain, freezing rain, sleet at times, and maybe when it's all said and done towards the back end of the system, maybe even a little bit of snow. Let's walk through the timeline. Again, we noticed the temperatures. That is going to be the critical factor in all this. This is early in the morning Wednesday, really just shortly after midnight. We're mostly dry out there. Some showers off to our west. Those are going to slowly begin building into the area throughout the course of the day Wednesday. It's probably going to be a good day to have the rain gear again on Wednesday. Look at these temperatures here in the River Valley. Initially, we're well in those upper 30s, even got some 40s out there in East Oklahoma, parts of the Ouachita. So no major concerns there, but yet again, we find that transition zone setting up in a very similar area as round number 1. It's going to be Benton, Carroll, even into Madison counties where those temperatures are likely going to be right at that critical freezing mark. Could really go either way. Both rounds, it could really go either way. Northwest Arkansas, we're right on that razor thin edge margin of error. Now, this specific model doesn't have a lot of that frozen preset moving too far south, but you notice those temperatures in Adair, parts of Washington. It's very possible that we had even just a little bit of elevation just to the north of Interstate 40. We could be looking at a few slick spots out there as well. So let's dive into the timeline. Monday, Northwest Arkansas, most of the day is going to be okay tomorrow. It's going to be overcast. It's going to be cool. But by, let's say, as early as 6, 7 o'clock, perhaps a little bit later, we'll start to see some rain showers building in. I really don't believe we're going to start to see frozen precip or icing until late Monday night, really going into Tuesday. I'm going to keep Tuesday in the medium category for Northwest Arkansas most of the day, but here's the thing. Where we see freezing rain and where we see sleet is likely going to be rather localized, not necessarily widespread. We're really honing in on those higher elevations of the Ozarks, Carroll, Madison, parts of northern Franklin, northern Johnson County. That's not to say folks west of 49 might not see a little bit of icing. It's just going to be very minimal, and therefore the impacts is rather going to be rather low as well. We get that second round Wednesday morning into the afternoon. I think by Wednesday night we're going to be done with this mess moving into the area. That's for Northwest Arkansas. Now for the River Valley, you got a cold rain, but when it comes to sleet and freezing rain impacts, what we're talking about specifically here, not concerned Monday, really not going to be concerned Tuesday. It's going to be that second system as some of those cooler temperatures push closer to the Interstate 40 corridor. Even then, that's not the entire River Valley, right? Everything south of 40 is probably going to end up being okay with the information that we know now. Could it change? Absolutely. These models historically don't handle cold air masses like this really well at all. So that's why there's a lot of uncertainty with regards to the forecast. One thing where there's not a lot of uncertainty is that we're going to get a little bit of rain out of this between both events. Expect probably close to about an inch of rain when it's all said and done. Northwest Arkansas, especially at Benton, even into northeast Oklahoma, maybe as low as a half inch, but I think a lot of us are trending closer to this 1 inch mark. There will probably be a few areas south of I-40 that end up picking up 1 to 2 inches of rain. The other interesting factor, especially with the second round coming in on Wednesday, there's just a little bit of storm fuel in the atmosphere, which means we could have a phenomenon called thunder sleet. It's just when it's sleeting out there and you start to hear some thunder. The convective nature of some of those storms may put on a show for us. So as of right now, that's what we're looking at. In terms of impacts, somewhat minimal, but in terms of icing, we'll have to be really mindful, especially here in Carroll, Madison. I wouldn't even rule out far northern Johnson County. It really looks like here's where we're going to pick up about 2/10 of an inch of ice. Is that historic? Nope, absolutely not. In fact, by a couple of weeks, most of us will have forgotten this event ever happened. That doesn't mean there might not be a few slick spots out there on Tuesday morning. Look for more widespread slick spots, especially across the northern half of the area north of Interstate 40 on Wednesday morning. We'll have more on that system coming up here on your 5 News at 5:30, as well as on 5 News at 10. And I'm going to be putting frequent updates over on our free app 5+ beginning tonight and continuing all the way through next week. For now, though, that's going to do it for this weather update. We'll keep you posted right here and on all of our other platforms.